Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Group 5, and today we will be discussing the Chapter 5 Corporate Social Responsibility. Business has to take account of its responsibilities to society in coming to its decisions. But society has to accept its responsibilities for setting the standards against which those decisions are made. Sir Adrian Cadbury. In this quotation, Sir Adrian Cadbury is trying to say that business is not only about gaining profit and expanding the business. It should always take into consideration other matters, especially the society. On the other hand, society also has the responsibility to set a standard whether to agree or disagree to those decisions. Chapter Objectives. After reading this chapter, we will be able to define corporate social responsibility, describe and evaluate economic model of corporate social responsibility, distinguish key components of the term responsibility, describe and evaluate the stakeholder model of corporate social responsibility, describe and evaluate the integrative model of corporate social responsibility, explain the role of reputation management as motivation behind CSR, and lastly, evaluate the claims that CSR is good for the business. To start with the introduction, this chapter addresses corporate social responsibility or CSR and how firms opt to meet this perceived responsibility. So, the definition of CSR and how does firms follow to it, we will tackle it. Next up is business have a social responsibility to obey the law. Whenever we talk about business, it will always involve the law in keeping the fairness to everything to everyone. So contractures, contractualizations, taxes, intellectual property, and etc. Businesses has to abide with this that the government regulates. Economically, business have a social responsibility to produce the goods and services that the society demands. Before starting business, a person should keep in mind the wants and needs of a society, because that's also one way to gain profit, right? And there are ambiguities involved in each of the three terms: the corporate, social, and responsibilities. Corporate, social, and responsibility has its different meanings when separated. Corporate is a group of people or a company formed into association endowed by the law. Social is relating to human society, interaction of the individual and the group or members of the society. And the responsibility is a state of having a duty. And lastly, the primary question of CSR is the extent to which businesses and the managers who run them have ethical responsibilities beyond producing goods and services within the law.
These terms are used in several different ways, and it's crucial to understand their own meanings. One meaning attributes something as a cause for an event or an action. The first meaning of responsibility involves attributing something as a cause for an event or an action. Like, for example, if an accident occurs, we seek to determine who or what is responsible, right? And it's about identifying the factors accountable for the particular outcome. Now let's move on to the second sense of responsibility, which carries ethical connotations. When we talk about being responsible in an ethical context, it means fulfilling our moral obligations and duties, and it goes beyond just the cause and effect relationship. Responsibility in the business world is a crucial aspect. When a business is responsible to someone or for something, it means it should act in a way that aligns with the ethical expectations. It's about doing what the business ethically ought or should do. Product safety and liability laws are excellent examples that involve these meanings of responsibility. When businesses manufacture and sell products, they have the responsibility to ensure the safety of those products. Corporate social responsibility, or often abbreviated as CSR, is another important aspect where it refers to the ethical expectations that society has for businesses. Beyond maximizing profits, businesses are expected to contribute positively to society and consider social and environmental impacts. Ethical responsibilities are what we ought or should do, and even if sometimes we would rather not. They are based on moral principles and guide our behavior both personally and professionally. Now in this slide, we will explore more of the concept of ethical responsibilities and varying levels of obligations associated with them. Philosophers often distinguish the three different levels on a scale from less to more obligatory. The first level of ethical responsibilities pertains to our duty to do good. It involves actively seeking opportunities to contribute positively to the society. Examples of actions at this level include volunteering and sponsoring a charity event. These acts go beyond what is expected and are driven by a desire to make a positive impact. Volunteering. Volunteering is a prime example of an ethical responsibility to do good. It entails selflessly offering our time, skills, and resources to assist others or support a cause. By volunteering, we actively contribute to the betterment of our communities and address social needs. Sponsoring a charity event. Sponsoring a charity event is another way of individuals or organizations to fulfill their ethical responsibilities to do good. By providing financial support or resources, they can help raise awareness, funds for important causes, and thus making a positive difference in the lives of others. Okay. Moving on to the second level, we have ethical responsibilities, which is to prevent harm. Now, at this level, our focus shifts towards minimizing or eliminating potential harm to others. And one familiar example of fulfilling this responsibility is being a Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan. Being a Good Samaritan involves offering assistance to someone in need, even if it means going out of our way or taking personal risks. It's a moral duty to prevent harm and provide aid when we have the capacity to do. Use renewable energy. Using renewable energy sources is an example of fulfilling this ethical responsibility. By opting for sustainable energy options, we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and minimize environmental harm, contributing to a healthier planet for the future generations. Lastly, we have the highest of ethical responsibility, which is not to cause harm to others. This level emphasizes the importance of actively avoiding actions or behaviors that could bring harm to individuals, communities, and the environment. Legal enforcement. It's important to note that some ethical responsibilities may also carry legal implications. When certain actions are considered so crucial that they must be enforced by legal punishment, they become a duty or obligation for all members of society. Even when not explicitly prohibited by law, ethics demands that we refrain from causing avoidable harm. Now, this principle overrides a business's pursuit of profit. Ethics guides us to consider the consequences of our actions and the potential harm that they may cause. It is not enough to follow just the letter of the law. We must go beyond and act responsibly by prioritizing the well-being of others. So does responsibility extend to preventing harm? Well, some argue that a more inclusive understanding of corporate social responsibility, or as we know as CSR, should hold businesses accountable for preventing harm. In a broader understanding of CSR, businesses are seen as having a responsibility to prevent harm. This means taking proactive measures to minimize negative impacts on society, the environment, and as well as the stakeholders. Now let's discuss whether there is a responsibility to do good. The standard of CSR varies in this regard. The most wide-ranging understanding of CSR holds that businesses have a social responsibility to do good things and contribute to making society a better place. It involves going beyond legal compliance and actively pursuing actions that benefit society and as a whole. However, it's important to note that philanthropy is not something that every business ought to do. While contributing to charitable causes is commendable, the concept of CSR encompasses a broader set of responsibilities, including a fair treatment of employees, environmental sustainability, and ethical business practices. The narrow economic model of CSR directs managers to focus solely on maximizing profit and shareholder wealth within legal limits. In this perspective, the primary responsibility of management is to ensure financial success. The stakeholder model asserts that both businesses and employees are not exempt from ordinary ethical responsibilities. It recognizes that a business's impact extends beyond shareholders and encompasses a wide range of stakeholders, such as employees, customers, communities, and the environment. Another perspective is the integrative model of CSR. It suggested that part of the managerial responsibility to shareholders is to serve the social good. The integrative model emphasizes that businesses can create value for shareholders while simultaneously considering the impact on society and pursuing actions that serve the social good. It recognizes the interconnectedness between the success of business and the well-being of the society.
The economic model holds that business's sole duty is simply to fulfill the economic functions business were designed to serve within the law. Stakeholder model. The theory argues that the firm should create value for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. Integrative model. Model of CSR for some business, social responsibility if fully integrated with the firm's mission or strategic plan. Mitt Romney stated that corporations are people. Ironically, the idea of corporation as a person, however defined, originated with the need to ensure that the corporations that arose with capitalism, and especially with the growth of larger firms with industrial revolution, could both assume debts and liabilities and be held legally responsible for them in the same way that natural persons would be. The general definition of the term corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is the ethical responsibility that a business has to the society in which it operates. From an economic perspective, a business is an institution. Business is an organized institution that operates to provide goods and services under the incentive of private gain. It also stated here where the law created the form of business called a corporation, which promotes these economic ends by limiting the liability of individuals for the risks involved in these activities. Economic model of CSR hold businesses' sole duties to fulfill the economic functions businesses were designed to serve. Managerial capitalism represents a form of capital accumulation and organizational control in which managers are the central agents of power. Economic model of CSR places shareholders at the center of the corporation, where managers have a primary responsibility to pursue profit within the law. Corporations are expected to obey legal mandates as they can enter contracts, loan and borrow money, sue and be sued, hire employees, own assets, and pay taxes.
Under the economic model of CSR, it is said that business has no social responsibilities. From this perspective, the primary purpose of the business is to pursue economic goals such as maximizing profits, growth, and shareholder value. It suggested that businesses are not obligated to take on any social responsibilities beyond what is required by economic and legal consideration. Like Friedman suggested that managers fulfill their ethical responsibility by increasing shareholders' wealth and pursuing profit. This common view of corporate social responsibility has its roots in the utilitarian tradition and in neoclassical economics. Utilitarianism is the moral theory that argues for activities that promote happiness or pleasure, while opposing that action cause happiness or harm. A utilitarian ideology would aim for the welfare of society as a whole while making social, economic, or political decisions. With this dominant economic model, there are room to pursue social responsibilities. Despite the predominance of a particular economic framework or perspective, there are still space or opportunity for business individuals to undertake social responsibilities. The dominant economic model refers to sentences likely represent the prevailing approach or system that guides economic activities, such as capitalism, free market, or other widely accepted economic theories. Next, about economic model of CSR is that business is free to contribute to social causes as a matter of philanthropy. First, it builds goodwill or good reputation, provide tax deduction, and builds goodwill or a good reputation with the community. Second, some support causes that have little or no business or financial payoff as a matter of giving back to their communities. The economic model in which business supports for a social cause is done simply because it is the right thing to do differs from the reputational vision only in terms of the underlying motivation. Next, stakeholder model of CSR stated that businesses exist within a web of social and ethical relationship and create value for a range of stakeholders. It highlights the interconnectedness of business with society and emphasizes their impact on various stakeholders beyond just stakeholders or owner. It suggested that businesses do not operate in isolation but rather than exist within a border of context of social and ethical interactions. They are influenced by and in turn influence the communities, individuals, and organizations they interact with. According to Norman Bowie, he argues that businesses has an ethical duty to respect human rights. It is the moral minimum that we can expect for every person. The obligation to cause no harm overrides other ethical considerations. If managers comply with the moral minimum, they should maximize its profits. Then under the stakeholder model of CSR, there is a stakeholder theory. Recognize that every business decision affects a wide variety of people, benefiting some and imposing cost of others. The stakeholder model simplifies acknowledge this principle and points out of the other ethical duties have an equal claim on managerial decision making. Acknowledge that fact by requiring management to balance that ethical interest of all affected parties. Like utilitarianism is ask managers to consider the consequences of its decision. Social responsibilities requires decision to prioritize competing and conflicting responsibilities because stakeholders theory recognize that some stakeholders have different power and impact on decision than others. Make the World Better Place by Ben and Jerry means that their social mission drive us to use our company in a creative way that will enhance the world. In order to operate the business in a way that actively acknowledge the critical part of the business place in a society by developing innovative projects to raise the standards of a living right away as well as worldwide.
Now, let's talk about integrative model of CSR. We might wonder if a business should be expected to sacrifice its profit for the sake of social ends. There are many organizations that aim to give or benefit to social end as part of their mission, including non-profit organizations such as Angat Buhay Organization that was established last 2022 in aim to benefit the marginalized sector of the community in the Philippines. With this, there are businesses who partnered with this organization. Although there are also some for-profit organizations that have their social goal as a central or main part of the strategic mission, these firms integrate economic and social goals by using the integrative model of CSR, as shown and explained earlier. There are no solid claims that every business should adopt the principle of benefit corporation because first, these are not available in every state and not every business are eligible to register as a benefit corporation. For the implications of sustainability, in order for a business to be sustainable, its financial objective must be weighed against and sometimes even surpassed by environmental concerns. Many defenders claim that a biosphere that sustains all life is where all economic activity takes place. They also argue that the current economics paradigm, particularly the macroeconomic objective of economic development, is already colliding with the biosphere's potential to support life. With this, success must be judged by the financial bottom line, as well as the ecological and social bottom lines. Moreover, corporate sustainability reports delivers data on a company economics, environmental, and social performance for all stakeholders. For Kenneth Dayton, he stated that we are not in business to make profit for our shareholders. Our primary goal should just not be to make profit but to serve the society and just treat profit as a reward for doing a good job on serving the society. Because for Kenneth, if a business does not serve the society or does not meet the society's demands, the business profit and existence would just vanish to the eyes of the society. We might wonder if there are other reasons besides self-interest and economics for a business to engage in socially responsible activities. In CSR, it impacts a firm's reputation within a community. A reputation-based approach has the drawback of reducing social responsibility to social marketing. A reputation management is the activity of taking care of a company's image. Failing to do so might be a bad financial choice. Companies who participate in CSR initiatives simply to have an impact on their reputation risk legal repercussions. Within this, there is no doubt that there are many aspects of firm's reputation, since it has the potential to earn respect for its goods and services, financial success, workplace culture, and corporate social responsibility. A company's reputation might pose major obstacles to its ability to succeed in the marketplace.
Is good ethics also good business? Enlightened self-interest presume it is, or at least it can be. Theorists continue to dispute whether ethical decisions lead to more significant profits than unethical decisions. There is a general agreement that ethics pays off in the long run, but how to measure that payoff is a challenge. Often the measurement of a good reputation is not evident or obvious. The values and principles which guide our decision-making should be just as important at work as they are in our personal lives, because behaving ethically makes good business sense. It makes sense because employees want to work for a company which they are proud of, and with colleagues they know how to act with integrity. Is there a business case for return on investment from ethics? Evidence says yes, but the dominant thinking is that if it cannot be measured, it is not important. Measurement is critical as there are detractors. David Vogel from Berkeley contends that firms with strong CSR missions serve a niche market of consumers and investors. Argues that contrary to a global shift in the business environment, CSR instead should be perceived as just one option. Research concludes that it does pay for businesses in emerging markets to pursue a wider role in environmental and social issues. Studies find there are a number of expected and measurable outcomes to ethics programs in organizations. This chapter sought to answer the question of whether there exists a social responsibility of business. Several sources were proposed. Responsibility may be based in the concept of good corporate citizenship, a social contract, or enlightened self-interest. The chapter explored the challenge of how an inanimate entity could have a responsibility to others. It also discussed the extent of that obligation both in law and ethics. One thing that is certain today is that it is impossible to engage in business today without encountering and addressing CSR.